I will entertain any questions on the August financials.
Any questions from board members? Hearing none. Barb, Instructional Services, new
Yes.
course proposals.
Okay. Briefly, the new course proposals in front of you are really just a proposal for one new course, which is the third in the series of science restructured courses that BEST has been engaged in producing. This is going to be Physics 102. It's a year-long course for one full credit in science to begin next fall. It's to provide an opportunity for about 60% of the students to take physics. These are kids who would have had bio the freshman year, chemistry or sophomore year in those two new restructured courses. And there's a pretty good description provided for you as to the purpose and background and their request for some summer curriculum next fall. The other course proposal changes are really just changes in titles or in reducing them from a year-long to a semester or a period to a period. So the only new course proposal that we're going to ask you to consider is Physics 102. Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. I want to jump ahead to the demographic report first. So if you'll, that's actually listed third on the fourth on your agenda, but I think it sets a context for the PSAE report. And Ken has requested that I give you some highlights and then entertain some questions from you if you have some. This report in general is not much different than you've seen before. It shows what we would expect as some slight increases in our Hispanic population, a little bit in our Asian population, stability elsewhere. The big news of the story continues to be two things. One is our low-income percentages continue to increase, and if you look at those increases over the last 10 or 11 years, in the year 2000, we were sitting as a district with 10.3% low income, and currently it's up to 26.5. So that obviously has an impact not only on our Prairie State AYP accountability groupings, but also on what we need to do to provide for students who perhaps don't have the resources at home or past experiences, etc. The brand new piece, though, that I wanted to point out to you is the graduation rate. And that rate may have looked alarmingly low to you, and I want to just point out what I explained in the narrative to you, and that is the fact that in 2008, December 2008, there were some changes to Title I that required the graduation rates be calculated in a different fashion. And that was to start this year. So this figure is the first year from that 2008 law. Now when we report, or when the state reports graduation rates, they are looking at a 4-year adjusted cohort to include only students who graduate with a regular high school diploma in 4 years or less, including the summer after their supposed senior graduation. So for example, these 9th graders would have started in 07, 08. Anybody who transferred in or transferred out or emigrated, or if there were any student deaths, those would be subtracted, and that would be the number to be worked with. So if you have, for example, students that take longer than 4 years plus the summer to graduate, they're not going to be counted as graduates even if they do. That drastically at some of our schools affects the graduation rate. And next year, Illinois will start to report a 5-year adjusted cohort rate because they'll have all this information from the student information system. So you can see that East's graduation rate, for example, prior to this change was 91.2%, and now is reported as 78.9. That's the reason for the drop, is that the methodology has changed, and I think schools all over the state are going to be showing that. So it's something that we want to look at, and it's caused us, it's a good thing to look at who are the students that are taking longer than 4 years to graduate. something that's been on our radar, but this will of course cause us to look at even more detail. I was talking with Mike about some of this beforehand as well.
And it's actually precisely one of the key reasons why the PLC is so crucial instructional right now, because what should be happening in those course teams, one of the things that leads to that is kids getting off track, particularly at the freshman level. Looking at those course teams to see, okay, where are kids failing, why are they failing, looking at it critically and try to make those changes at the freshman level. If we can lower the failure rate at the freshman level, we can increase the graduation rate at all three of our buildings.
It seems to imply between here and prepared
I don't know that I want to say that, but I think just what's important is, for whatever reason, they're not having as much success as I think they need to have right out of the gate. So it's probably a combination of a lot of things. Some of which, if you look at the drastic change since 2008, just in the economics, that's a big factor. There's probably not a stronger variable in American public school performance than poverty or lack of poverty. Where you find the highest performance, you generally find the lowest poverty.
Are there any questions on the demographic part? I think that was a big thing that stuck out.
I didn't quite get how the graduation rate went from 90-something down to 70-something.
It's because, as I explained, that they're using new methodology for calculating that. They're only allowing to be counted as a graduate a student who starts, let's say, 07, 08 in your freshman cohort and finishes within 4 years plus the summer. So any
So there's more
student.
than 4 years more counting.
So if you have special ed students, for example, who take 5 years or 6 years, or you have a certificate of completion rather than a regular high school diploma, that will affect your
So
calculation.
before, like we all cited these 99%, 97, whatever, that wasn't graduating in 4 years. That would people eventually would graduate.
We would track them to the point when they did graduate, which in a sense is a much more fair kind of picture in terms of our success rate. We just took longer than what the state now is saying is your endpoint for getting them through.
Are you saying 20% of the people at least would graduate eventually, but don't graduate within 4 years under the system?
I'm not saying that entire 20% would, but what I'm saying is that if you even look at the other schools, South will drop 3.3%, West will drop 5.2%. So you're going to see adjustments. Pardon?
Page 2 of that report.
Demographic report or
It's the
yes,
demographic
yes.
report. The top right-hand corner, see where I have the 3 pluses, or 2 pluses on the 3 data points?
page 2?
It's page 4,
No.
top
Yes,
right,
yes.
and there's a note at the bottom to explain that. And in the narrative, it gives you more detail about the formula, more than you want to know probably.
So you started saying comparing it to other schools, but you just meant Maine East and Maine West. We don't have comparisons.
I don't have the data for the other schools yet, but I think when we start to see those school report cards posted, I think you're going to see that all the rest of our contiguous districts are going to notice this kind of drop too.
So one thing, at least in theory, this reporting ought to be consistent now. So
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yes.
a good thing. It's all taken out of the state information,
But you said,
information system.
4 years plus the following summer?
Yes, they allowed a kid who would have graduated in June to graduate in August.
And they will still
And
count
they will
that?
still count that individual.
How many, do you have any idea how many we might have in that category?
No.
Okay.
There's always some.
Some.
Always, at every building, we always have a senior who, for whatever reason, decides it's a good idea to blow off English in the last semester. It happens every year.
Or math.
Or math.
Yeah. Any other questions on the demographics report?
Okay, let's jump back to the Prairie State analysis and the AYP performance. And Don is standing by. Could not do this report without Don. And hopefully Margaret noticed his P-values on various charts.
Statistically significant, and I like some of the discussion about what tests you ran, why you ran them, and how we should interpret them.
Well, and I will step aside right now.
Yeah, this data, really the only data points we have are proportion of students that met versus those that didn't meet. So we're not comparing an average, a score for each student, it's just whether or not they met which category they fall into. So the chi-square analysis, what that allows us to do is it looks at, I chose to use the 3 previous years, the average of the 3 previous years. So when we look at that,
Are we page 7 now? On this?
I don't have the full report, I'm not sure what.
You're on page 7, that's the first
Okay, that's what I thought.
chart, and following, and then there's narrative before that.
Yeah, so this chi-square test, based on those 3 previous years, we developed an expectation. So if there's no difference between this year from the 3 previous years, we would expect to see a similar distribution of scores in the does not meet and the meets category. So then we look at what we observed, and the chi-square is a test of what we observed versus what we expected to see. And that the p-value tells us that less than, p-value less than 0.05, that's if we look at this, collected the data 100 times, there's less than a 5% chance that we would see the distribution as different as what we had expected to see.
Okay, so the distribution between
Does not meet
and meets or exceeds.
Right.
So we saw, is this a different distribution just in terms of, are we seeing, is it spread out differently? Is it a different curve? Is it, what is it telling us?
It's just telling us that in cases, at least in most of the cases, we're seeing a smaller proportion of students in the meets exceeds category than we had seen in the previous 3 years.
Okay, statistically significant.
Statistically significant, and we get into the same issue before with group size and sample size. The more observations that you have, the more.
Right, I think it's more valid for obviously our larger group, so your all would be a better group to look at than
Right.
your Native Americans.
Right, and it's
Which
harder to reach statistical significance for smaller groups.
Yeah, but even if, in a group that 20, 30, 40 people is gonna be a very different group than 400 or 500. Okay, so the distribution is significantly different. The difference is greater than we would expect in the variance in the distribution. But for the actual score of meets or exceeds, are we looking at statistically significant declines or increases there? Because, as I'm looking at it, there's some scores I'm thinking, this is not a good score. Either it's, the lowest score we have over a period of time, or it's 10th, 11th, something like that. And where do we have the analysis on that, so I can understand which ones of these in the district we should be really concerned about?
Well,
These aren't scores, these
Yeah.
are percentages.
Or percentages?
yes, it's percentages
We're
that.
pulling this from the school report card.
So, if we're having less people meeting and exceeding in the class, what does this mean in terms of what we're doing as a district? Or is this in a vacuum so that it really doesn't tell us that what we have to do?
Well, and you can check it.
Yeah.
First of all, this group of kids is different than last year's group of kids that we looked at.
Right.
Which is different than the last year's group of kids. So you have to remember that it's,
I
we're
know,
not
so
measuring
this-
growth over time of this particular group. This is just how they did on Prairie State. It's not even looking at maybe how this cohort grew from Explorer to Plan to Prairie State. So that's one FYI.
So we don't have anything in here, we don't have anything in here about growth, we don't have anything here that says,
Not in
they
this
came,
report. No.
yes, I'm trying to put together all the pieces, but they seem to come in discrete little
Well,
pockets, and it's hard to.
we give you a value-added report later, which looks at the Explore to Plan to ACT, which is part of the Prairie State point spread. So so you can see that growth pattern. But if we didn't give this to you, you're gonna see it in the newspapers anyway, because they get released right now, and I think it's incumbent on us to say how we did on the state assessment on this particular assessment, this two-day assessment in April. First day was ACT, second day was a combination of work keys from ACT and so forth. So this is our graduating class, they're graduating this coming June. I realize it's out of context, but by the end of the year, when you have our annual review, our fifth binder of reports, there will be in that reports that are pulled together to put it into context. Now, in terms of interventions, you know, can you point to any one thing and say, you know, our such and such has caused an impact on this? I think a lot of the interventions that we have going on right now, it's going to take some time for us to see some real progress on those. We don't even have the freshman class of Audrey's restructured program hitting this mark yet. So we're going to have to be patient and look at what we're doing in aligning our curriculum to the Common Core and the college readiness standards. And then, guess what? In 2014 or 15, they're going to change the test on us. So Prairie State has only a lifespan of a couple more years. Yeah.
So how do we compare at that point then? Because I guess that becomes a real question for us. How do we know if what we've been doing is successful?
You know how we're going to know? I truly believe it's going to be through the development of our professional learning communities who are looking at locally created common assessments across course teams, assessments that are linked to the standards, and that we monitor progress of kids, same kids, over time and watch their growth. And I don't know if principals want to weigh in on that or not, but I'm going to have a lot more comfort about is what we're doing making a difference with kids against the standards. We don't even get enough item analysis on this to know where they're falling down. It's in broad categories of information to us.
Yeah, without the item analysis, you don't know what it is they aren't learning or where they're missing the connections.
Yeah. And whether a student meets standards in reading, for example, you know, it's not just on one test. The day one is the ACT reading test, and then they bring in the work keys, applied math test score. There's some secret formula that the state uses to come up with whether or not they met or exceeded. I have seen students who got the same ACT reading score and the same work keys score. One student met standards and one didn't. Because the formula is based on a raw score. So somewhere in there was like a one question difference or something. But even though their ACT score was the same and the work key score was the same, one student met standards and one didn't.
And that's not just Don, this has been talked about in our faculty group too. So,
The one bit of anecdotal evidence that I would share is that we met with many of the students who did not meet standards last spring and asked them, so tell us about your experience and tell us about what you're doing next. And every single one of those students would come up and do something they wanted to do, whether it was a 4-year college, a 2-year college, or to work. So even though we're taking this test and it's a meaningful test and it matters, at the same time, it's not impeding our students necessarily from going on to do the things they desire to do and have planned to do for the 4 years while they were with us at high school.
well, it's not even looked at by the colleges where we're going. We're supposed to put on the transcript just the raw score. We can't even put on the transcript whether they meet or don't meet. So Illinois, let's say we did it, and it could say on it 156, but Illinois doesn't know what 156 means in reading. They don't know if that means or doesn't mean. So there's no follow-up from higher ed with the student, which is probably motivational. Is a motivation problem. The only part of it is maybe motivation for these students.
Well, actually, speaking of the ACT, you know, roughly, very general ballpark, about half of our kids that East are going to go on to Open. Open does not require an ACT. So you have a lot of kids who, I mean, they have testing, yeah, fine, they'll show up. But you ask them, it's like, I don't need this. And again, you know, you would hope that they would want to do as well as they can do, but that's not where some of them reside. So, that plays a little role into it, I think, for some students.
You would think that the state universities in Illinois would not accept a student who didn't meet standards in high school, yet so many of our kids are going to state universities if there's someone that meets standards.
But with all that, can I jump up for a second? With all that, it seems to me that a lot of the have been consistent year to year. Whatever deficiencies there are in the test, we have the same test coming out. And when I look at the results, you've got 11 years of data now. And two of our schools had the lowest meets in the 11 years. Now, the odds of that being a random event have got to be very small. And if I were to read the E-scores over a period of time, there's clearly a drop-off, it seems to me. So the test may not be perfect. The entering classes may be a little lower. I get a much better, reaction to the data when I saw the ACT, or the benchmark analysis for the ACT data of the class of 2011, which I guess may not be the same class we're talking about, I'm not sure. But that seemed like a much rosier projection than this. When you look at the East reading scores, the significant drops, the last 2 years are way below the worst year. Prior to that time, you look at the East. South is a lot closer. It's, their reading score is the lowest in 11 years, but, kind of on the margin. But in East, it seems like a trend. And when we looked at this last year, I think we thought, 1 year does not a trend make. Well, we now have 2 years of rapidly declining scores, seriously declining scores. And I don't think there's any criticism you can make of the test, correct me if I'm wrong, Barb, that would somehow remove concern that we're doing a lot worse.
Well, the one thing I would say is that in 2008, that was the first year that we were no longer allowed to give the image test to all of our second language students. And that was a reason for a huge shift there. So really, if you're going to look, you might want to look at the last 3 years and draw some conclusions rather than looking at the 10 years. Because, if you don't speak English, just because the print is larger or it's read to you, that you can only speak,
Or they give you more time.
or they give you more time, it's not going to help you. And East's population and West's population has a lot of students that struggle with that. And also they've toughened up a bit on the special ed requirements too. And this score does not include IAA, does it?
No.
No, that kicks in on the AYP reports towards the end. IAA is for our special ed students who are physically disabled and unable to take the test.
So I guess the question in my mind is, what's the plan to deal with this? If this is real, if our reading scores are dropping, off the table, what's the game plan?
Well, let me turn to the principals and have you chat a minute about what the reading interventions are that you have at work and maybe related to your PLCs. Some of that's in the narrative, but perhaps what you're saying out loud.
Well, East, we're making great use for freshmen coming in, IFL, a little different format. Kids still have extended period English, which is got a very heavy reading literacy focus. Every one of the students is also enrolled in a half period. It's called 025OM, which is a very specific sort of an RTI Tier 2 intervention. So we're using Jamestown Read Navigator, we're doing progress monitoring students. Being very, very specific, we're able to really sort of tailor and figure out what the kids are struggling with, to be very, very specific in targeting those interventions. We did that on a limited basis last year. We required of all students in IFL, so again, that's our freshman group, but we're still 2 years out from the Prairie State testing. We also have in our Reading 2T, which is a double block, it's 2 periods. It's a period of English, a period of reading, and we're using the very intense reading intervention, again, using technology. Expert 21 is an integrated technology program we're using, which actually allows us to basically give differentiated reading. So it's the same assignment, but it's tailored to the point where students currently are so that they can comprehend, they can build skill, and then we can ratchet it up as they become more proficient through the years. So we're using that with a number of our sophomore students. We continue to be at that transitional level, and then this is the second year that we've had an American American Studies transitional. So again, it's that same cohort of kids who follow through. This is the integrated program in English 3 and U.S. history, and it also has it's assigned a literacy reading specialist as well. So again, very, very targeted interventions to help kids along in those ways. One of the things to keep in mind is even though you would think we have only about 10% English language learners at Maine East, when you take a look, when you start to look at the students writing and listen to them speak and you sort of get a sense of how they're reading, you see what we call markers that actually show that about 75% of our students actually show the markers as being ELL students because they were most likely ELLs at some point exited from the program in elementary school or middle school, junior high along the way. So again, we've got a number of things we looked at. The data team is looking at, specifically, we just had our first data team meeting of the year with the administrative team, taking a look at a number of our tier 2 interventions. So in response to intervention, if students aren't as successful as we want them to be, then we start to look at some very specific, kind of giving them offers they can't refuse to meet them where they are and see if we can accelerate their learning to bring them along. So we've got some things that we're kind of looking to see where they're going to come along, but we've been intense about that. Sophomores, I wouldn't say the current group of juniors are quite there, although they've had more of that experience than this group of kids who went through. And I think speaking to the cohort of kids, this group of current seniors who were juniors last year, really, that was one of the reasons that we put many of the things we have in IFL in place. I mean, that group of students was really not as academically successful as we would have hoped. They made some progress, but they've sort of struggled all the way through.
Is it a trend in the sophomore and freshman classes showing the same hallmarks?
No, again, there's always room for improvement. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everything is fantastic and rosy, but we see a very different attitude toward work and school. Some of those things I don't think kids, the question came to Ken, are kids not prepared? No, I don't see that. Sometimes it's their attitudes towards school in terms of the work, it may be the support at home, it may be the parents, sort of what how they're able to support their students in terms of helping them along. So there are a number of factors. I'm not trying to make excuses. We're trying to peel back as many layers of this thing as we can and figure out what can we affect as a school, how can we involve more parents, because I do find in a school where people say, it's whether to get parents involved. As we reach out and we work at that, I do think we're seeing some specific instances, many of them, of increased parental involvement. And I think that's going to play out positively for us, but it is, in a cultural sense, significantly different than in South, for example.
There's one other piece here too, and it needs to be said, and I said it before, the Prairie State is an incredibly poorly designed test. It is not a test that's doing what it's designed to do. That's one thing. In Illinois alone, the meets exceeds benchmark is 20% difference between the high school test and the elementary middle school tests. So right off the bat, Illinois has constructed a system that has allowed a lot of its elementary and middle schools to demonstrate that they're having students meeting and exceeded far higher rates in high school. Well, it's a test design.
It's also the AYP buckets of 45 students.
Yeah.
That elementary schools often don't have.
We could spend and probably should spend some time at an education committee, maybe not tomorrow, but we should actually dedicate those just to
I know we've
this.
got a full agenda tonight, so I guess my question is, you mentioned already, Barb, that at the end of the year, you have the comprehensive analysis, but that's the end of the school year, that's not the end of the calendar year, right?
It's in June, we bring that to, I think, June or July.
And then each year, sometime in the spring, we have a school improvement plan.
Yes.
What month is that?
I don't know what we have that scheduled for.
The rules have kind of changed on that because we're switching over to a Rising Star is the name of the new Illinois State Board of Ed system.
Or is it for
It's morphing from using the traditional look you've always seen. We brought you the first piece of it last year that we were
But even if we didn't bring you something formal, I think relatively shortly we could bring you some things that we could articulate are being done that will be included in the formal plans once they're finished. That would give you a sense of the things that we're doing in the buildings.
I mean, you know, for all the criticisms of the test, this is the state of Vermont, and this is, they think, a valid thing to study. And so, you know, while it seems to me that we ought to be able to, you know, do that 10 years or 11 years, as long as no child left behind, I guess, of declining scores of learning scores. And so I guess what we're looking for, at this time looking for, is a game plan to how to improve that. And I think it means longer days, it means even more reading. I appreciate, you know, two consecutive periods of class is an awful lot of class, I understand all that. But, you know, what,
Well, one of these years, they went, you know, we began testing every student, so that, you know, what was that, 2004 or 5 in there, that we went from testing not every student to testing every student. So that was one issue.
I mean, what we could see at some time, you know, at this meeting, is a comparison to schools that are comparable. You know, we compare ourselves.
You do get that report from us, we bring you, I think that's like a couple of months, our CAD will produce that, so you'll see that before Christmas.
Is there a debate over the schools that we, because and we have this in a
You'll
different
see
context?
all 60 of them, or 70 of them.
60 being what? 60, what is 60?
60 high schools in
60
the
high
Chicagoland area.
Okay, so that's what that is?
The report that we'll bring you is from our CAD group, and we all give Steve Corrigan from 214 our scores.
The 60 is the number of suburban high schools.
Yes.
Right.
And what would be most useful for that is to try to match demographically as close as you can our three schools
No, I
with
understand
their
that.
maps.
Comparing ourselves to Lake Forest may not be
Yeah.
the best interest, but we're capable of making that distinction. I'd like to see.
Yeah, you get that every year, and we've always sent that out. It's generally a Steve Corrigan that produced report that we've always sent that out. But we can spend more time.
And I think we have to mention, but I guess the question, are we referring this to the education committee for further study, or?
I'd like to, there's some new things out around the ACT test right now. In fact, Steve Corrigan's got a new report out that we just talked about. I really think we need to spend some time talking about this with the board, just to get a sense of just some of the test methodology around this. I understand your point about having the same test in place. It actually really hasn't even been the same test. There have been a couple of times, and one of the things I'm interested in is have other schools, because this has happened a couple of other times along this 10-year line, where other schools have across the board seen a similar decline in one or more of the tests that couldn't be explained through a confidence interval band. So the thinking was there was an actual test change.
And that would be, you know, apparent to us if you put not 60, but 15 or 10 schools on a comparable year-to-year basis.
Yeah.
I think, and for West, we've seen a significant change in our demographics. So if you look at trend, in 1999, we were at 70.9% white, and in 2011, we're at 50.9%, and we haven't seen significant shifts in our scores. And in
That's
fact,
actually important to me because, you know, that's true. The West was the one that I didn't mention, where if it were the test or if it were this or if it were that, you would think that West would have the same thing, but West scores are basically flat as they were over 12 years.
And what we're looking at is the skills level of kids coming in, and then putting assessments in place in every single course so we can chart our progress with every single student, not just through this assessment, but through a pre-test that we give in science and a post-test to see how are we actually growing. And we're looking at our subgroups. So for example, with the Hispanic population, you can see that our scores are actually tending to rise, where at first, when we saw a huge shift in our demographics, we weren't sure what to do. And so now we're figuring that out and looking at a much stronger skills-based curriculum than a content-based curriculum. And you see a significant shift in how kids do on things like this, but also how they score in their classrooms and
Actually,
other assessments.
this particular cohort for West is looking pretty strong. There's some significant growth in some certain areas. So,
But as we said, that our degree of difficulty, and those are generally three things especially. One is the economics, the ethnicity, and really the ELL. You add any one of those three variables into a school, and generally it's going to impact your performance. We have three distinct ones. So what that means is for us to even hold ground, we've got to raise our game. And I think, you know, there's a recognition that we're.
Because those are all reported, you can chart that.
Yes,
So you can
absolutely.
chart
It's in the
these
demographic report.
And you can do it the way we see it right away with year-by-year analysis, not only the 15 or so comparable schools, but you could also see what our schools, I think the best of those three that you mentioned is probably the Harvard, and that the closest correlation.
It's absolutely the strongest correlation, and it holds up stronger than anything else.
So when do you want to set a date when we're going to hear more? on this?
Well, we have an education tomorrow, so why don't we, I would presume that it would be like the next education committee after that.
You know what I'd appreciate is if you sent me some specific questions that you'd like that meeting to shake around, and anyone else on the board too, and then we'll take those and look at
Yeah, I don't think
it.
not the education committee, but if there's a time I can make it, I'll make it, I'll try to send you. And then the basic concern is when I read the results, especially East, but also South a little bit, it just seemed like they were really bad, and it didn't seem like I was ready for it. When it was a month or 2 months ago, you gave us the,
It was a different cohort of kids. The ACT scores, yeah.
right, it was 1 year apart,
Yeah, 1 year apart.
1 year ahead.
And just one other piece, on page 5, enrollment statistics, if you look at the low income chart at the bottom of page 5, it's just one page before tab 5.
See the low income, yeah.
You can see, if you're looking at the age, you're looking at 27.1%, 203, and they're up at 44.8, that's practically doubled, and do my math there, but that's one of your toughest subgroups, and if that's increasing at that rapid of a pace, trying to keep up with that is significant.
But fairness, West is increasing just without the deteriorating. So if you look at the West scores, it's about the same trend line.
Thank you.
2012 National Merit Scholarship.
This is simply reporting out on the numbers of semifinalists and commended students that we have. I'm on, this is the book, I'm sorry, there's not a page numbers, but it would be from the second page of that particular report, you'll see that South has 5 National Merit semifinalists, and on the back side of that page, quite a number of commended students in the district, 18 from South, 11 from East, and 4 from West. And these are students who were juniors when they took the National Merit Test, and they were taken from groups of 16,000 who were named semifinalists and 34,000 who were named commended. When we get to the point where we have some finalists, we will bring those to you. This is the standard report we see every year with some trend data there too.
Any questions? Next item is policy and procedure, first reading of the 8600 power for debt. Are there any questions? Otherwise, it'll be up for second reading next month.
Can you just go background on that? This is the updated trust policy. The major change is the new requirement for districts to report to the State Board of Education if they have outstanding debt that exceeds 75% of their debt limit specified. We are so far below that threshold that it really wouldn't apply to us, but this will then allow us to track the substantive changes as Crest makes them to the debt policy.
Other items, the monthly update on FOIA requests.
One request, and that one is pending.
Yes, sir.
We got somewhat less 2 weeks ago, I know there's a rate increase from transit. Have you talked to them about that, whether we can?
We have not. I wanted to give you an FYI first on that.
Thank you.
Next item, consent agenda. Is there a desire to pull anything off of number 7? Hearing none, is there a motion on the consent agenda? Correct. Is there a second? Second. Keller. Any questions or comments? All call the roll, please.
McGrath. Aye. Miller.
Aye.
Burke.
Yes.
Graham.
Yes.
Heller. Sullivan.
Aye. Number 8, policies and procedures, second reading. As you can see, there's a request for 2 of them. 1142, the non-discrimination policy, and 2305, Director of Special Ed and Student Personnel Services job description, both of which have requested waiver of first reading. Mr. Deeds, you want to summarize these for us?
Sure, 1142.
Oh, sure.
One second.
Raymond Keller again. I'm sorry, thank you. Mr. Dees.
1142, this is actually some policy language that was recommended to us by the OCR in response to an issue that we currently have settled with the OCR, Main East issue. And so we took the advice of the representatives from the Office of Civil Rights and decided to update the policy to their satisfaction.
I do want to make something clear. The fourth one here is 6940, which is chronic congenital infectious disease, which we talked about last month. You agree with that?
Yeah,
motion? And your second? Okay.
And
Yes, student athletic concussions and injuries. I read it.
And the corresponding procedures to that policy is really what's called our uniform grievance procedure, and that is being updated as well, including the language recommended by OCR, and also to be simply be updated to the current standards as recommended by CREF. The policy 2305 is a change in the job description for the Director of Special Education and Student Personnel Services, simply in response to the dissolution of METSEP. This is a position that will become a District 207 position, so the job description changes accordingly.
we're changing it now, even though this job won't change until
Well-
that step is actually dissolved.
We need to advertise for the position to hire for next
And
year.
we don't have this position right now.
Correct.
Well,
Well,
actually, the policy was last updated in '96 prior to the change of, this policy was out of date for what we were doing in METSEP. So we didn't have an updated policy. We had a policy that reflected that we still had a Director of Special Ed, which we sort of did, but it was also a half-time METSEP position. So this is just to reflect what we believe will be the case for next year. But in order to do the advertisement, we have to have a new policy. Job description, excuse me, a job description. That's what we want to advertise as a job description for next year. I do see your point, Mark, but this will allow us to put out a current job description with an ad that I'd like to get out within the next couple of days, so that we can do this in the first half of the year this year and give the new person some time to work with transition with Lynette because of the number of mechanics involved with the METSEP dissolution.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion is to pass the second reading, 1142, 2305, 6823, and 6940. Call roll.
Burke?
Yes.
McGrath? Aye. Graham? Yes. Miller?
Aye.
Heller? Sullivan?
Aye. Number 9, resolution for the designation of METSEP Administrative District 2011-2012. Recommendation is the Board of Education approve the designation of District 207 as the administrative district for Maine Township Special Education Program METSEP through June 30, 2012. And further resolution for designation of Maine Township Special Education Program Administrative District and authorize the President and Secretary of the Board of Education to execute the appropriate documents. Is there a motion? Feller, is there a second?
Second.
Grant. Questions or comments?
I'm so confused. Why do we need this since we're dissolving?
Well, we're not until the end of the fiscal year, so we have to do it for the remainder of this fiscal year. We do this every year.
Okay.
Running us through June 30, 2012,
Yeah.
before we get into the fiscal year.
Okay.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Burke?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Heller? McGrath? Aye. Graham? Yes. Sullivan?
Aye. Next item is requesting the Board of Education approve non-paid extracurricular activities for 2011-2012. Recommendation of the Board of Education officially approve the list of non-paid extracurricular activities for 2011-2012, including the appendices. Is there a motion? Miller. Questions or comments?
I would just like to say that I appreciate a lot of these teachers provide this great service for kids.
It's a long list.
The appreciation is so noted for the minute. Any other comments? Call the roll. It's okay, too late it is.
It's all on film.
Yeah, it's all felt. Twice.
So noted.
Heller?
Yes.
McGrath?
Said it then.
Burke?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Graham? Yes. Sullivan?
Aye. Next item is the new club proposal, the Renewable Energy Club of Manise. Recommendation for Board of Education approve the establishment of the Renewable Energy Club at Manise High School as outlined in appendices. Burke, second. Keller, questions or comments?
I have a question. Is it, are we allowed to limit student, organizations to just specific genders of students? Or, is that prohibited? If I look at Article 4, this consists of all female students interested in STEM. I don't know if we are allowed to do that.
Well, and we ran a special program. Is this the same group of girls that we ran, or similar program that we ran last year, Mike? And is the intent here to provide a vehicle to do something similar?
Yes.
I'm with Margaret. I think we're doing.
Don't think we can
Yeah.
say
But it
criminal.
says,
Just general ed.
it doesn't say.
Organization, that's what it says in the proposal.
Female
When you get
students.
back into the Constitution, it says,
Yeah, but where, Margaret?
Article 4, Section 1.
Constitution Article 4 is somewhat as with number 5 on the proposal.
And
It says,
what?
Article 5 says general education students, when you get to the Constitution, is female students.
Yeah.
And I don't see general education students anywhere in the Constitution.
Mike, real question, is this to run the similar type of program that we ran last year? And if so, how?
This is
how-
associated with the grant.
Okay, but the grant doesn't require a club to be in place, does it?
No, but this is so they can actually do some fundraising, things
Okay.
they can't really do without having club status.
Okay, so we already limit the program
Yes.
to females if we're running the same program again, so condition of being in that, is there any reason that we couldn't approve the club striking the gender section, since effectively for this year, the curriculum program will be a girls-only program?
Right. Well, it's not even a curricular program. I mean, it's specifically, it's Project Lead the Way, but this particular grant is a group of kids that will do some research and present as part of that.
Was that an
study.
NSF grant?
Yes.
Okay, we got an NSF grant that was getting girls into STEM pro, they reported last year to our Community Advisory Council on alternative energy, but
Well, but the whole,
Yeah, we use federal funds for.
But NSF does it all the time. They do a lot of girl-specific programs. They do it all the time.
I just don't think we can
Well,
have that in a clause. And I mean, I also question some of the administration of this stuff, you know, where it's just majority of votes, but we don't have a defined population. I mean, it's true, but
okay.
limiting it to female students only, I think, is problematic.
Well, the grant is,
That's different.
yeah, but the
than-
club.
Than a club.
Margaret, is there a comfort level if we would strike the gender section in the proposed bylaws, or would you want to have us come back next month?
In the
Just strike-
Constitution.
Just strike female.
Yeah, strike female everywhere that's in there, this would be, and it's only in there.
do all the students in the club have to be participants of the grant in STEM?
I do not know the answer to that. I think
Because
we can
if
open
it
up,
is,
you know.
if it is, then American would be any grant eligible student. And you go gender neutral, and the point is, if the grant has turned around and picked the gender, it's not us doing it, it's the grant doing it.
But here's the other, I mean, we're putting a club in place that may be meeting 5 years from now,
Right, sure.
and presumably may not have a grant yet, so
Why can't you have a student that's a member of the Renewable Energy Club?
who's not in
Who's not in
the
the
grant
STEM
program?
Okay?
That's right.
Yeah, I think.
That's why I was
I mean,
thinking.
although I could get comfortable with the STEM program, but not the gender one.
Okay.
Well, and of course, I also got hung up on section 2, which is officers will need to have served 1 year as a general member of the club. Yet, if you just started the club, no one
Yeah,
can be an
well,
officer to
I-
start.
you know,
You're not looking for a lot of members.
I tried not to.
Get hung up on the details.
Inconsistencies here, but.
Okay, so
You know.
our motion and second is by who?
I think a motion.
Okay,
What was that?
motion.
I'm sorry.
Mueller and Peller. Okay, so Mueller and Peller Any objection to the amending of Article 5, Section 1 to striking the female? No
And
objection.
Article 4, section 1.
And Article 4, Section 1.
Article 4 and 5.
So Article 4.1 and 5.1, striking the female civil service. Okay, any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
McGrath. Aye. Burke.
Yes.
Miller. Heller. Graham.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Aye. Next item 12, insurance renewal recommendation. The Board of Education approve the new optional PPO2 and health premiums as presented. Is there a motion? Burke, second.
Second.
Second, Graham. Questions or comments?
Just a real quick overview, I haven't read it, but just an oral report from community.
Good year.
Also, not everything's in here. Is this complete, a number of pages? Because it doesn't seem to have the proposal that we have a partial premium holiday.
It is in here.
A one-time premium holiday.
That's the top of, that's the
First-
chart,
first-
under the first chart on page 2.
It's also in the first paragraph, third line. Yep.
One time for you, Holly.
Page 2, right under the first,
First paragraph.
between the first and second
That's
sentence.
right here.
Yes, sir.
Right here.
Flip over. It's
Second line.
I found it in the third one.
third one.
It's a good year, so the long and short of it is PPO rates are not only not proposing to increase, but we are doing a half-month premium holiday because we've generated enough additional premium. The thought is that by not changing the premium amount, we can offset future increases because we know they're gonna come with the Affordable Care Act. The HMO will not see a premium holiday and they will increase 4%, which is a very good number, so they too had a good claim year. Dental, 0% increase, dental HMO, 3% increase, no increase in life LTD, no increase in any of our flex admin fees, so it is probably one of the best renewals that I have seen in a long, long time. And I think everyone that is contributing to these good numbers should be commended, and they will receive a little extra in their paycheck.
Greg was running P90X in the morning and the afternoon last year, so when I asked him to do morning and afternoon, we'll see if he can do it next year.
And then I'll be buying all kinds of insurance plans.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
McGrath. Aye. Burke. Heller. Miller. Graham.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Motion carries unanimously. Approval of 2010-2011 audit. Recommendation the Board of Education accepts the audit report, Main Township High School District 207, Main Township Special Education Program, and North Suburban Educational Region for Vocational Education for the year ending June 30, 2011. Is there a motion?
So moved.
McGrath and Miller. Any questions or comments?
We quickly spent a few hours on this at a recent finance meeting, Robert and I and Eric were there. I don't know how you tell me, Margaret, it seems like the audit is clean, there's a few minor things that need to be addressed, but they were very, very complimentary of the work that the school board has done, their administrators have done. We got a copy of the audit in advance. I thought there was going to be one for everybody else tonight, but I think we have to approve it.
You get them last Friday? Okay.
Yeah, they got them the same time we did, so,
Did they?
yeah.
Okay, there were a few minor changes, but nothing material.
Very, very minor changes. I think the comments on the deficiencies they found were so minor, it was kind of, they had to find something. They can't go away happy if they don't find something to comment on, so I think they dug pretty deep to find things. I think they, complimented how clean everything was, how easy it was for them to audit, how, because the papers were all in order, and they weren't finding things that they had to change, or things that were problems. It was
We had some questions which I believe have become kind of an annual event for them, because I think we ask them the same things each year, which is we inquire about how carefully they audit the school treasurer and how funds are segregated. We ask them whether other schools are getting in line with a district investment policy, which is one of Marta's babies. We talked to them about whether they're familiar with and whether their other school district clients have Did they successfully dodge giving us in free advice, what did you say, so Margaret?
Yes, they did. We also did ask about post-employment, other post-employment benefits and also what we can expect to see coming in the future in terms of showing up on our liabilities, pension liabilities that there are changes in the reporting standards and which pension liabilities we're going to be seeing on our balance sheet in the future.
What's the timeframe on that? I know you know that as well as I do.
I'm not 100%
You're
sure.
probably at the FASB. FASB's generally come before the GASB.
Yeah, we're.
So you're there. It isn't even on our radar screen yet. So I would say we're at least 2 years out.
And I don't think it's finalized yet. I think there's still a lot of struggle about how they will value what the liabilities are, because I believe they look to value the liabilities in a manner that really inflates them, which I think, kind of brings across the point that these plans are underfunded, but I don't think it's a realistic view. If you use very, very low interest rates when you are, the discount rates and rates are going to be so out of step with what really will happen with the plans long term, that I think we could see much larger liabilities than I think even the audit results are going to see, or that we currently have in the audit report for what those post-employment, those pension liabilities are on the IMRF ones. They're showing about $8 or $9 million on the IMRF. Is that correct?
No, I think it's more than that.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be, if GASB is adopted as currently proposed, it'll be larger than that.
Any other questions or comments?
Just congratulations to the administration. We've been very active, Ms.
Call the roll.
Graham? Yes. McGrath?
Aye.
Burke?
Yes.
Seller? Yes. Miller? Sullivan?
The secretary is hereby directed to make these audits part of the permanent school record and file same with federal, state, and regional offices in accord with legal obligations of the district. 14, agreement with Maine High School Hockey Association requesting the board adopt the agreement between Maine High School District 207 and governing board of Maine High School Hockey Association as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Burke, is there a second?
Second.
Graham, questions or comments?
Question,
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming there are no changes from the same
Just the
thing?
dates, same thing, same liability.
I would ask that when something like this comes out and the only changes are the dates, that we get it in a red line so that we can see that that's the only change that's been made. It's much easier to,
Okay.
because I'm looking at, I'm not going to pull out last year's and compare it to it, but I was going to ask the
Yeah,
same question.
sorry,
but I'll
yeah,
ask.
the only changes were the dates.
Okay.
Any consideration to possibly doing a multi-year agreement and just making the insurance update?
I would say that given the language of this, because it has a rollover provision,
Right.
that we could simply do an addendum, a letter of understanding with updated insurance
With
requirements.
an administrative recommendation?
Yep.
Cool.
And that's
So
gonna,
therefore,
as we, I didn't catch that in the first agreement, otherwise I would have made that
Because
recommendation.
that, well, we wanted to, when this first came up, we wanted to make sure that we had insurance coverage, and that's our biggest concern. I think once that assurance has been made by the administration, I don't think the board needs to take action on it unless we feel we need to take specific action.
No, that's fine.
Okay, you have a motion to second, call the roll.
McGrath?
Aye.
Keller? Yes. Miller?
Aye.
Burke?
Yes.
Graham? Yes. Sullivan?
Aye. Calendar items, number 15. We have October 4th, we have an education committee meeting at 3 p.m. in the conference room. October 10th is Columbus Day, no school. October 20th, scheduled special board workshop meeting at 5:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Yes, so is that, yes. November 7th is our next scheduled board meeting. And then November 11th is Veterans Day, no school. Any other comments on the calendar?
We also have a finance committee meeting scheduled for October 27th at 6 o'clock. That was set after the book was published.
6 p.m.
And we just had a building and grounds committee meeting for,
November 7th,
November 7th, right?
right before the meeting, 6 p.m. Any other comments on the calendar? Are there any other communications to come before the board? Yes, Mr. Pyro.
Apologizing, I was a little late. I was gathering some information as I promised. This was on a card. And I've also got a letter in response to a FOIA request. I do want to commend the person I just handed the documents to, Hank, for the work that he's done getting a lot more visibility out to the public. He's working very hard, I guess, with the technology, I guess, division of the township and district. And I just want to commend him for the work that he's done getting everything online, getting this video up, which is going to hopefully get viral within the district and enable people to see that you guys are opening up communication. The document that the president is holding is a FOIA request from the Illinois State Board of Education. I've not received any correspondence as yet from...
A FOIA request to the Illinois State Board of Education?
This is the response that I got.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't received a response from the U.S. Department of Education. I was tipped off by the superintendent, and I'm starting to do some research. And I have a 3-page email. And that's about it. So I'm going to be doing a FOIA request tomorrow to this district for over 600 email communications from July 1st of 2011 till the present. And I hope to get a response of unduly burdensome because I will be filing litigation against not only the Illinois State Board of Education, but also against this district. So hopefully we can work together and I can possibly review, instead of getting these printed out, these email communications as mentioned in response 1. The people down in Springfield are basically not working with me. And if I could drive down to Springfield and talk with them directly, I will. And that's basically about it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other communications to come before the board? Okay. Mr. Dietz, do we have any student personnel issues?
No student personnel.
Okay, we close session. Any, yes we do. Yes we do. Yes we do. And do we have any sale of lease or real property?
Not this one.
Okay. Then do we have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of reviewing closed session minutes, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of certain employees, probable imminent or pending litigation, and collective negotiating matters. Graham, Keller, any questions or comments on the motion? What's your time, Bobby?
Mine was 8:30, that was it.
Okay.
You talk over?
Call the roll.
McGrath. Aye. Burke.
Yes.
Keller. Miller.
Wait 5 minutes.
Graham. Yeah. Sullivan.
It is 8:26 and 10 seconds, and we're in closed session.